The arena was silent. Thousands of alien eyes stared down from the steel balconies above, waiting to see blood. The sand below was stained with the red, blue, and green of those who had failed before. Karen of the Shavik held her blade. Tight, her armor gleamed silver under the twin suns, her tail steady, her breathing calm. She had fought in 100 duels. She had broken giants and stabbed creatures twice her size. She had nothing to prove until now. At the center of the arena stood a human, just one. His leg was wounded, blackened and wrapped in dirty cloth. He had no armor, no helmet. Only rags and a chain around his wrists. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He just stared at her. The crowd above laughed. "Strike the meat, Karen," someone shouted in her native tongue. "Make the creature scream." She stepped forward, slow and steady, her eyes locked on him. He didn't flinch. "Do you understand what this is?" she said, voice cold. "You are meant to kneel." Still nothing. Karen circled him, blade ready. She could see the poison in his leg veins like black lines, muscles swollen and pulsing. That wound should have dropped him hours ago. He should be begging or dead, but he stood. Finally she made her move. She dashed forward, fast as lightning, and brought her blade down on his injured thigh. No warrior could withstand such pain. But then something strange happened. The moment her blade touched him, it shattered. A crack filled the air. The metal snapped like glass. The blade broke into pieces and dropped into the sand. Karen froze. Crowd went silent. She took 2 steps back, eyes wide, heart pounding. Her hand shook. The human smiled. It wasn't a cruel smile. Not a mocking one. It was soft, tired, like someone who had waited for this moment for a long time. "You're not the first to try that," he said, voice deep and calm. Karen's mouth went dry. He spoke perfect Shavik. What are you?" she asked, but he didn't answer. He just turned his head slightly toward the balcony where the arena master sat. "Tell your master," he said, "his games are ending soon." Then he sat down in the sand like he had all the time in the world. Karen stood frozen. Her blade lay in pieces. And the crowd, confused and unsure, began to whisper. That night, Karen visited the medic wing. She demanded to see the human's medical report. The guards resisted until she reminded them who she was. She scanned the record. Name, unknown. Species, human. Injury, deep puncture wound. Toxin level, fatal. Survival rate, 0. Notes: subject survived 3 prior fatal conditions. Observation recommended. No known reason for survival. Subject refuses food. Healing continues unnaturally. Karen stared at the words. This made no sense. She had studied human biology during her warrior training. They were clever but fragile. Their bones broke easily. Their skin tore like paper. They bled quickly. This one should be dead. Why was he standing? Why did her blade break? And what was that smile? She walked out of the medic wing, still holding the report in her hand, thoughts spinning. As she passed the empty training hall, she saw him again. He was chained to the center post, alone in the dark. He didn't look at her, but he spoke. "You came." Karen stepped inside slowly. "What's happening to you?" she asked. He looked up. "They told you I'm a weapon, didn't they?" "No," she said. "They said you're a prisoner." He chuckled, then winced, his leg still badly wounded. "No one survives that toxin," she whispered. "Not even the Shavik." "Maybe I'm not supposed to," he replied. Silence stretched between them. Karen felt a strange chill. This wasn't just a man. He wasn't ordinary. She didn't know what he was, but something inside her said she needed to find out. "Why didn't you scream?" she asked. He looked at her with calm eyes. "I've been through worse." She wanted to ask more, but behind her, a door creaked open and the guards came in. "Karen," one said, "you're not allowed here." She turned. But not before stealing one last glance at the human Dot, still calm, still smiling, still watching. Her Dot as if he already knew she would return. Karen didn't sleep that night. She sat alone on the cold floor of her quarters, the broken pieces of her blade still in her hand. The arena master's voice kept replaying in her head. It's just a human. Test him, nothing more. But that wasn't just a human. That was something else. Something that made steel shatter and fear settle in her chest. Something her people didn't understand. Or worse, were hiding Dot at dawn. She wrapped herself in a black cloak and headed for the restricted medical archive. Guards at the gate lowered their spears. Authorized personnel only, one said, his tone firm. Karen didn't argue. She simply raised her left hand and showed the mark on her wrist, the warrior's blood seal of Shavek Elite. They stepped aside. Inside the data chamber, the air was colder. Silent machines hummed in the dark, glowing softly with filtered reports. She tapped the control panel, searching for the human's file. Nothing. She tried again, this time bypassing the surface-level logs. Still nothing. She narrowed her eyes, then entered an override code. One she had memorized long ago, the code given only to the Warburn. The screen flickered. Accessing experimental combat logs, level 7 clearance. A file blinked. Open. Project. Leviathan species. Human hybrid status. Terminated. Status incorrect. Subject active. Classified reason. Escaped containment. Unauthorized neural regeneration observed. Weaponization failed. Now considered highly volatile. Karen felt her chest tighten. She scrolled through old footage images of this same human. Years younger, facing 20 soldiers alone, all of them dead in seconds. Another clip showed him sitting calmly in a lab while scientists debated over his blood. One said, if we can't control it, we must erase it. Another whispered, it's not just human anymore. Karen stepped back from the screen. Her knees felt weak. Why was something like that locked in a public arena, paraded as a prisoner? Unless he wasn't the one being tested. She left the chamber quickly, her mind racing. That night, after the crowds had left and the arena lights dimmed, she returned to where he was kept. He was awake, sitting against the wall, his wrists still chained. You came back, he said softly. She didn't speak. She simply stared at him, searching his face. You're not like the others, he added. Why did they erase your name? She asked quietly. He tilted his head. Because names make people real. Easier to fear someone when you don't see them as a person. Karen walked closer, her boots silent on the stone floor. I saw the logs, she whispered. He didn't seem surprised. You let them capture you on purpose, she said, more a statement than a question. He nodded. Karen took a deep breath. What are you waiting for? He finally looked up at her, eyes steady. A signal. Her breath caught. A signal for what? Before he could answer, a low warning siren echoed across the chamber. Alert. Level 2 breach detected. Arena security doors compromised. Karen's eyes widened. What's going on? He stood, slow and steady, even with the chain still holding his wrists. You're about to find out, he said calmly. Suddenly, the walls trembled. Roars echoed through the tunnels beneath the arena. Karen turned toward the main gate. Her ears caught something scratching, growling. The sound of claws on metal. Her heart dropped. They released the beasts, she whispered. In the middle of the night, the arena master's voice came through the comms. Let's see how the human does with real pressure, unarmed, alone. Karen looked at him, still calm, still quiet. You'll die, she said, but he just stepped forward, chain dragging behind him. I won't, he replied. A blast door fell open. 3 massive predator beasts stomped into the holding area, sniffing the air, jaws open, eyes glowing with hunger. Karen raised her blade only to realize it was still shattered. She reached for a backup, But before she could move, the human whistled low. Sharp, piercing. The predators stopped, confused, sniffing. One of them let out a low growl, stepped forward, then froze. It lowered its head. So did the others. Karen's hand trembled on her blade. The beasts weren't attacking him. They were bowing to him. She turned to him slowly, and for the first time in her life, Karen felt something she had never felt before. It wasn't fear. It wasn't duty. It was awe. What are you? She breathed. He didn't smile this time. He simply said, something your empire tried to bury. The beasts circled around the human, massive bodies covered in bone-plated armor, fangs dripping with saliva, muscles twitching as if ready to tear apart anything in their path. Except they didn't touch him. They walked around him, slow and cautious, like predators that had just realized they were not at the top of the food chain anymore. Karen stood frozen in the shadows, her breath shallow. The creatures Oroks were bred for blood sport. No mind, no fear, only hunger. But now they were lowering their heads to a wounded human. No chains held them back. No guards controlled them, yet they obeyed him, the human. Turned slowly, his gaze moving across each creature. He raised a hand, not to strike, but to rest it gently on the skull of the largest one. It closed its eyes, like a pet calmed by its master. Karen's fingers gripped the hilt of her backup blade, knuckles white. She had been trained her whole life to control fear. But what she felt now wasn't just fear, it was the collapse of everything she believed in. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a glitch in the arena's system. This was a message. The human looked at her from across the blood-stained sand. They obey instinct, he said. And instinct tells them I'm not prey. Karen didn't speak, she couldn't. Then she heard the sound of footsteps above, the clank of armored boots and the buzzing hum of stun rifles charging, arena guards. Too many. She looked up. Dozens of them, lining the balcony, weapons aimed at both the human and the beasts. The arena master's voice echoed over the intercom, angry now. Put the subject down. Kill the Xeriks. Clean up this mess. Karen glanced at the human. He was still standing, still calm. But something in his eyes had changed. They weren't soft anymore. They were cold, like fire just before it erupts. The guards opened fire. Stun blasts lit up the air. The beasts roared and charged the upper deck, leaping onto the walls with terrifying speed. But Karen didn't move. She only watched. Him, the human, didn't run. He stepped toward her, chain still dragging behind him, and said something she didn't expect. You should leave. I'm not afraid, she said. He looked at her closely. No, he replied. You're curious. And somehow that made her feel even more exposed. Without warning, the largest beast let out a shriek and crashed through the gate, shattering it like paper. The others followed, disappearing into the inner corridors of the arena structure. Guards shouted and chased after them. In the chaos, alarms blared and emergency shutters fell. Karen turned back to him, but he was gone. Her heart jumped. She spun around, scanning every corner. The human had vanished. Not limping, not crawling, gone. She ran into the hall, sword ready, heart pounding. No blood trail, no sign of struggle. Just silence. And then, a whisper. From the shadows behind her. I was brought here for a reason. She turned sharply. He stepped out from behind a steel pillar, untouched by the attack. I stayed, he said, because I'm looking for someone. Karen narrowed her eyes. Someone? The human looked past her, toward the upper floors where the arena master's chambers stood. They built this place on top of old bones, he continued. They thought if they kept me caged long enough, I'd forget what I came for. What did you come for? She asked, breathless. He stepped forward, stopping just a foot from her. To remind them, he said, voice low, that humans don't forget pain. Karen swallowed hard. There was nothing in the files about this. Nothing in her training to prepare her for a creature who could break blades with his skin, command monsters, and speak with sorrow in his eyes instead of rage. "You're not like the others we fought before," she whispered. "I wasn't made to be like them," he replied. He turned, walking deeper into the shadows as alarms continued to echo. "Where are you going?" she called out. He didn't stop walking. "To make sure they remember who I am before I leave this place in ash." Then he disappeared into the dark corridor. Karen stood still for a long time. The scent of burning metal filled the air. From above, the arena master's voice barked more orders, trying to regain control. But deep inside her, Karen felt the shift. This wasn't about sport anymore. This was war, and the humans weren't the ones in danger. Karen stood at the edge of the silent corridor, her chest rising and falling with each slow breath. He was gone again. And this time, the air felt heavier. Not because of the bloodshed above, or the smoke starting to drift from broken vents. Because her mind was racing with questions that had no safe answers. Who was this human? Why could he command beasts, break blades, vanish like mist? And why did she feel more alive now than she ever had before? The next morning, Karen entered the archives once more, but not through the front gate. She knew now that the guards wouldn't help. They weren't just following orders, they were afraid. Not of her. Of him. So she came through the maintenance tunnel, crawling through vent shafts and dripping heat tubes, reaching the level 8 core logs, the hidden black files only the central AI could unlock. When she linked her blood seal, it paused. Then a warning blinked red. Access restricted. Project Leviathan status. Terminated by order of High Command Reason. Subject too resilient. Impossible to break. But instead of stopping, Karen entered a master key, one she had taken from her dead mentor long ago. Never knowing what it opened. The screen flickered, then loaded. Name, unknown. Code name, Leviathan species, human, augmented. Through illegal neural warforging, abilities, pain resistance, regeneration, biolink with predator species, tactical memory rebound incident report, escape destruction at Station Zerith. Eliminated 43 elite soldiers without visible weapons. Immune to chemical breakdown. Last known command, do not engage alone. Classified, eyes only. Karen's heart beat louder. Below the data was a short video log, years old. She tapped play. A dark room appeared. A younger version of the man, chained to a steel chair, sat quietly. Scientists spoke around him. He doesn't sleep, doesn't eat. Yet he heals. We tried burning, freezing, toxins his body adapts. One voice, deeper, older, cut through. He is not a soldier anymore. He's a reminder of what they lost when they tried to destroy Earth. Karen's hands shook. The Shavik had won the war. That's what she'd always been told. But no one had said humans survived, or that one had turned into this. That night, Karen returned to the arena. But something was wrong. The lower cells were empty. No prisoners. No guards. No human. She moved. Through the shadows, heart racing. Lights flickered above. Somewhere distant, a siren wailed, a low, slow warning like something was leaking. Or breaking. She turned a corner and stopped. There he was, sitting beside the body of a fallen guard. Arms resting on his knees, calm as ever. "Did you kill him?" she asked softly. He didn't look up. "No, he ran from the beasts and broke his neck." Karen stepped forward. "You've seen war, haven't you?" He nodded. "Once, more than once," he said. "And now?" He looked at her. "I'm not here for war, not this time." "Then what?" she asked. He stood up slowly. "Closure." He walked past her, slow, limping, but full of purpose. Karen turned and followed. "What did they do to you?" "They made me stronger," he said. "Then tried to erase me when they realized they couldn't control what they'd made." "And now you're what, vengeance?" He stopped and looked at her. Double quotes. "No, I'm the truth." They reached the old forge chamber, a place Where weapons were once made from living metal, Karen noticed something pulsing on the wall. A piece of her broken blade embedded in metal. Glowing faintly, he stepped up to it, touched the shard. It pulsed brighter. "What is that?" she asked. He turned to her, eyes soft but heavy with something deeper memory. "Maybe pain. When you struck me," he said, "your blade woke something up, not just in me, in the system. They built this entire arena on ruins, human ruins. A long time ago, this was one of ours." Karen stared at him. "You're saying this place was built over human tech?" He nodded, "And they thought I wouldn't find it again." He pulled the shard from the wall. It melted into his palm, spreading like liquid silver across his skin. Karen took a step back, his veins lit up, not burning, not painful. It looked like a circuit coming to life. "What are you doing?" she asked. His voice dropped low, "Calling the rest of me." Above them, the sky cracked with sudden thunder, but there were no clouds, just stars blinking, then vanishing. As if something massive was moving behind them. Karen looked up. "What's that?" The human smiled, this time not soft. Not gentle. Just steady. "That," he said, "is my ride." The sky above the arena shimmered like stretched glass, bending the stars as something enormous moved through orbit, slow, patient, quiet, like a sleeping god finally waking up. Karen watched the heavens crack with unnatural light. Her pulse raced. Whatever he had called, it wasn't small, and it wasn't afraid of being seen. The human, this living weapon, this survivor stood with his hand pressed against the glowing shard embedded in his chest. His skin rippled with light, like old circuits powering up for the first time in decades. Karen's voice broke the silence. "Is that a ship?" He didn't turn to her. "That's a warning," he said. "For them. For everyone watching. They're not going to let you live after this," she whispered. He finally looked at her. "They never planned to." The arena master's voice echoed from high above, sharp and cracking with fear masked as anger. "Shut it down. Now." Karen looked up and saw the anti-ship cannons begin to move, rising from hidden compartments across the Colosseum's edges. Lasers powered up, searchlights locked on the man below. The order came fast. "Fire." Karen turned, but it was too late. A white-hot beam struck the ground where he stood. Stone cracked. Flames roared. Dust and smoke burst into the air. Karen stumbled back, shielding her face, heart hammering in her chest. Then she heard something worse than the explosion. She heard footsteps through the smoke. He walked out. Alive. The chains on his wrists had melted. His body was scorched, but standing. He didn't run. He didn't scream. He just kept walking, straight toward the main gate. "Stop him!" the master screamed. Troops stormed in from every corner, rifles raised, armor shining, but none stepped forward. None fired. They'd seen what he was, and something deep in their bones whispered, "Don't try." Karen ran up beside him. "You'll die." "I already did," he answered. She grabbed his arm. "You don't have to do this alone." He stopped. For the first time, something shifted in his expression. He looked at her, not as a soldier, not as an enemy, but as someone who had chosen to stay when she could have run. "I was created in pieces," he said quietly. "Pain was the glue they used to hold me together. Every test, every scar. It was designed to break me." He took her hand and placed it on the center of his chest, just above the scar where her blade had struck. Now it pulsed with soft silver light. "But they failed," he said. "Because pain isn't what breaks people, it's what wakes them up." Karena's voice was low. "What are you going to do?" He looked at the sky, now fully alive with massive shapes drifting through orbit. "I'm going to remind them who I used to be." Suddenly, a deep vibration shook the arena. From underground. The floor cracked. Lights blinked and went dark. Old stone gave way to steel as ancient human tech responded to the signal in his blood. From beneath the sand, Massive doors split open. Dust hissed out, and from the darkness below, something rose. A machine though, a relic, a human warframe 10 meters tall, covered in armor etched with names long forgotten. One name remained clear painted across the chest in bold white. R-E-M-A-N-O-1. The crowd screamed in panic. Guards dropped their weapons. Karen stepped back in awe. You were here. Before we even built this place, she whispered. He walked toward the warframe, the metal shifting, opening like it recognized him. No code, no key, just presence. He climbed inside. And when the machine stood, it didn't move like something old. It moved like it had been waiting. From the balcony, the arena master activated the failsafe. Every defense gun turned inward. Dozens of war drones lit up, missiles, locked on target. But inside the warframe, the human smiled. You wanted me broken, he said, voice amplified now. You wanted to show the galaxy what happens when you cage a human. He raised one arm. The warframe responded faster than thought. He caught a missile mid-air, crushed it in his hand, and hurled it back. The sky lit up. Flames danced across the balconies. Karen covered her face as fire poured from above. But she wasn't afraid. Not anymore. She was watching history rewrite itself. From deep within the CUM system, a forgotten voice echoed, a recording from an ancient war. If even one of them survives, one, you don't win. You delay your fall. Karen looked up at the warframe towering above the arena. The human inside stood, not as a weapon, not as a prisoner, but as something else entirely. A memory the galaxy tried to erase now returned. Smoke rose like ghosts from the shattered balconies. Flames curled along the steel arches of the arena, once proud and polished, now broken and glowing with heat. Sirens wailed in the distance. Sparks rained from power conduits. What had once been a place of honorless sport was turning to ruin. Karen stood at the center of it all. Her armor was scraped. Her blade was gone. Her rank meant nothing here anymore. And yet her heart had never been clearer. Above her, the human stood inside the massive warframe, Remnant 01, its eyes glowing, its limbs smooth with power far older than anything her species had ever built. He wasn't fighting for escape. He wasn't running for his life. He was claiming what had been buried. And he was doing it with terrifying calm. On the high balcony, the arena master stumbled backward, coughing through smoke, shouting into a damaged CUM device. Send the fleet. Send everything. Lock this sector down. But no voice answered. The command channels were dead. Wiped. Burned. Replaced by a signal he didn't recognize. A pulse, slow and rhythmic, pouncing off every satellite. The old Earth code, the one his ancestors had. Feared. Karen sprinted across the broken arena floor, dodging debris and falling beams. Prisoners were climbing from their cells. Some ran, some froze, but others watched the human with something strange in their eyes. Hope. Not fear. Hope. She reached the base of the warframe as it moved. Slow but unstoppable. Wait. She shouted, voice hoarse. The warframe paused. A hatch opened. And from the light inside, he stepped out, his body wrapped in silver cords that looked like armor grown from memory itself. His eyes met hers. You stayed, he said. Karen nodded. I told you, I'm not afraid. He walked closer. You should be. She shook her head. I'm not afraid of you. I'm afraid of what comes next. He glanced toward the sky, where dark shapes began to form, vessels warping into view. Some Shavik, some unknown. You're not the only one who picked up that signal, she whispered. He didn't deny it. They'll come, she said. To kill you, to erase you again. He looked at her, and there was no hate in his face, just tired truth. Then I'll stand, he said. One last time if I must. She stepped forward. You don't have to do it alone. He raised an eyebrow. You'd side with me? Against your own? Karen looked around the broken arena. The blood-stained sand, the cages, the drones, the screaming orders from above. This place, she said, never felt like home. Maybe it was never supposed to. He studied her for a long second. Then not a dot, a loud crack echoed across the sky. From orbit, the first enemy ship descended, a black spearhead of metal and flame, weapons charged. They're not waiting, Karen said. The human turned back toward his warframe, climbing in again, his voice now deeper, amplified through the metal titan. Let them come. Inside the control tower, desperate hands slammed buttons, launched missiles, called for backup. But everything was jammed. Every system bent around that one code, the same repeating message flooding the airwaves. Remnant online, system reactivated, Terran signal accepted. Karen grabbed a fallen comms unit and broadcasted one last message. To any who hear this, stand down. The human is not your enemy. He is the warning. The enemy ship fired. Missiles roared through the atmosphere, heading straight for the arena. But the warframe didn't move. Instead, the human lifted one hand and the old defenses buried beneath the arena came back online. Massive pillars burst from the ground. Shields unfolding like ancient wings, the missiles exploded. Mid-air. Fire lit the sky. And still he stood. Karen shielded her face from the blast, eyes wide. When the light faded, she saw him still inside Remnant 01, standing in a crater of fire. Armor glowing, breathing slow. You were right, she whispered to herself. He wasn't made to fight. He was made to finish it. Then her breath caught. A beam of light struck her from the side. She stumbled back, blood soaking her ribs. Sniper. One of the fleeing guards, too afraid to face him directly. So they aimed for her. She fell to the ground, coughing, eyes losing focus. And then he was there. He jumped down from the warframe, landing beside her, sliding to his knees. He held her head gently, one hand pressed to her side. She could barely speak. Don't worry, I stayed, remember? His eyes locked on hers. Then something happened. Where her blood touched his hand, light spread. Warm, soft. Her pain faded. He blinked, confused at first, then realized what it meant. Her blood. It was triggering something in him. A link. A memory. Or maybe a purpose. Karen opened her eyes, whispering weakly. How are you doing this? He shook his head. I'm not. He looked at his hands, then back at her. You are. The warframe stood still under the broken sky. Smoke curled through the ruins of the arena, now cracked open like a dead shell. Fires burned high on the walls. Cries echoed through the air. The city beyond was watching. And from orbit, more ships. Arrived heavy cruisers with weapons locked, but none dared strike again, because the message had changed. This wasn't a riot. This was a resurrection. Karen lay on the shattered ground. Her armor melted, her breath shallow. But she was alive, because he had saved her, with hands that were built to destroy, but chose to heal instead. The human sat beside her, no longer hiding behind silence. His voice was clear now, steady. I didn't know if I could save anyone. He said, but you stayed, even when I told you to run. She looked up at him, face pale, but smiling. You never scared me. He gave a soft laugh. Then you're braver than most humans I knew. Karen's hand reached out, brushing his. She wasn't a warrior in this moment. Not a Shavik, not an enemy. Just someone who saw him not as a weapon, but as a person, above. The enemy fleet formed a ring of steel and fire. From the lead ship, a new voice echoed across the arena through a wideband broadcast. Unidentified human. This is Commander Volik of the Union Armada. Step away from the relic. You will be erased. For violation of interstellar law. The human stood up, his body glowing faintly with the residual light from Karen's blood. He stared at the sky. And for the first time, he spoke not just to her, or the arena master, or the guards. He spoke to everyone. To the whole world watching. You Called us extinct, he said, his voice amplified through the Warframe's ancient systems. You told your children we were monsters, that we burned worlds and left nothing behind. You were right about one thing: something survived. He stepped forward, the Warframe rising to mirror his movements. But I didn't come to burn your cities. I didn't come to remind you of your fear. I came to remind you what you buried. He pointed toward Karen, wounded, alive, watching with fierce eyes. You created this war. You built arenas, prisons, weapons. But you forgot the one thing humans never lose. He paused. Choice. Inside the Warframe, the lights flared, panels shifted, and from its back, something rose, a signal beacon, long thought lost. Its code was earthborn.pre-fall.pre-exodus.ancient. And a live dot, it pinned once, then again. The fleet above scrambled. Orders changed, target locks vanished. Panic spread, because the code had found something. Others that hidden, sleeping, scattered. But now waking. A single quotes Ren struggled to her feet, leaning on rubble, watching as the beacon stretched skyward. What's it doing? She whispered. He looked back at her, the silver in his eyes glowing brighter. It's calling the others, he said. I wasn't the only one. Her eyes widened. You mean there are more like you? He nodded once. Not weapons. Not monsters, survivors. Across the galaxy, deep inside dark vaults, underground ruins, and long-dead ships, machines blinked to life. In old languages and nearly forgotten scripts. One word echoed: remnant awakened. The Union commander shouted again, but his voice was thin, now uncertain. Shut it down. Destroy the beacon. But no one moved, not even the ship's Zote. Something was overriding them, not with fire, but with memory. Back on the ground, the human stepped down from the Warframe. He walked back to Karen. His eyes calmer now. She looked at him, her voice quiet. So, what now? He sat beside her. For me, I walk. She frowned. Alone? He looked at her gently. Not if you want to come. She blinked. I thought I was your enemy. You were, he said. Then you gave me a reason to stop fighting. She smiled, even as tears touched the edge of her eyes. And you? What are you now? He didn't answer right away. Then he reached up and removed the last of the war-forged armor from his chest. It fell away, revealing the scar where her blade had once struck. He touched it with quiet pride. Not a weapon anymore, he said. A guardian. As the sun rose behind them and the fleet began to retreat, no longer certain, no longer in charge, Karen and the last human walked out of the ruined arena. Not in chains, not with fear, but side by side, toward the ruins of the old world. To build something new.